so that you can sharpen a cabinet scraper and also a card scraper, and I'll do both of them. So the first thing that we want to do is to remove the old burr that was on there. So I'm going to take the burnisher and lay the scraper down on edge, and this had a burr on it before, so we want to just flatten that out to begin with. We'll do both sides. And now take the cutter out of the cabinet scraper by loosening these two nuts and dropping that out the bottom. And there is a previous burr along here, so I'm going to go ahead and flatten that as well. So what I have here, this is what they call a mill bastard, and it's used to file metal. So on the cabinet scraper, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold this in the vise and then file this at a 45-degree angle. Maybe I hold it a little tighter down here. And we want to just get back past the old burr. And the other thing that we want to be careful of is to make sure that this edge is perfectly straight this way. Because if it happens to have a concave in it, we're just going to, when we go to the stone, we're just going to touch the two ends. So I do have a little concave in this, so I'm going to go ahead and just touch the ends of this. Now if you had a convex, the problem is only the center would touch, and you would have to push down on each side, and you'd get a very narrow cutting edge actually. So let's check this again for straightness. Just a little bit more. And if you hold it up to the light, you should be able to see it a little bit better. Okay, that looks good. Now, the card scraper, we want to do the same thing, but instead of holding it at a 45-degree angle, we're going to actually hold it at 90 degrees to the surface and do what they call draw filing. So I'm lining the teeth of the file on the top directly in line with the scraper, and what happens is it's actually the opposite on the underside. You push this along here, and again we're looking to make sure that we get past the old burr, and we want to have a good straight edge. That looks good. Now the next step is to go ahead and hone these. So we want to have as polished an edge as possible. So we're going to start off with a coarse 1000 grit stone here. Put a little water on it. And I'm going to do the straight one first. Now when we hone this, we want to hold this straight up and down, or square to the surface. If we roll it over, we're actually going to soften the edges, and you won't be able to turn a burr as well. And we also want to get rid of the old burr that's on the side and polish the side of the scrapers at the same time. And since I have this 1000 grit stone out, I'll go ahead and sharpen the cabinet scraper. Now this one we have to hold at a 45-degree angle, and we want to push this back and forth. Make sure that we get the entire edge.
It's pressing fairly hard there.
Yep. Yeah, I'm trying to sort of polish that edge, and now it works up a burr on the back. And you'll notice this blackness here where it's been scraping. As I polish the back, that's going to all disappear.
Oh, so that caused from the when you were scraping the wall mahogany.
It could have been.
Left the,
Oh, I lost one of my feet there. And I'm going to end up pushing into the edge and then flattening it out. And this needs to be sharp like a plane iron. Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and change out the stones. And the next one will be 5,000 grit. Clean these off. And we'll go ahead and hone this edge as well. And polish the back. It feels pretty good. Now we'll go on to the card scraper. And again, we're going to hold this perpendicular to the stone. And what we're doing is we're trying to get rid of the file marks that are on here now. So I usually will take my thumbnail and run it along the edge, my fingernail and run it along the edge to make sure that the file marks are gone. If you feel some tugging or some roughness, that's going to indicate that the file marks haven't been taken off yet. And again, we want to polish the surface, so we're looking to get a nice sharp corner on the edge of this one. Okay, then we're going to go on to an 8,000 grit stone. And I'm going to start again with the cabinet scraper, and again we're just honing this at 45. And flattening the back. That feels sharp like a plane now. Could you get me one of those cloths over there? That'll do. Thank you.
all right.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you. We'll clean that off. Now this one should be sharp, just like a plane iron. I can feel that tugging nicely. You can see I have a nice polished back on this, so the scratches are really fine, so I should have a nice sharp edge. And then I'm going to go on to my...
Can you pass that around?
Now I'm going to go ahead and do my square edge. Again, we're just polishing both surfaces. And I usually end up just going with straight passes across. I think you end up with straighter scratches on the surface. You can see I've got a lot of service out of this scraper because when you get them new, they're about that wide. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and burnish this. So why don't you pass me that, we'll do that one first, we'll pass that one around. Now, with this one here, we're looking to roll over an edge. So what we're looking to do on the cabinet scraper is we have a 45-degree angle that's filed onto it now. When we take the burnisher and we press against this corner here, what that's going to do is that's going to roll this edge over and make a hook on it. So this will actually end up being the cutting edge when we set it up in the body of the scraper. So I'm going to hold this in the vise with the bevel towards me, and when I burnish now, I'm going to start at the 45-degree angle, and I'm going to roll this edge over. Now this burnisher is one that I have made because when I first started out in the business, Stanley used to make one just like this, and they all had this 30-degree point on the end of it. And I'll show you what the point, why the point is important on this. So if you take your burnisher and you start dragging it across the edge of this, and as you drag it, you change the angle slightly each time, you're going to be able to roll this edge over, and you'll get a nice hook on the back side of this. Now when we go to, part of the problem that we can have now is if we roll this hook over too far, when this gets set into the body of the plane, if the hook gets rolled too far, you're actually going to hit the round part of the hook. So we have to manipulate the burr so that we can get that hook to be at the right angle, which is about 30 degrees off of the perpendicular. And what I'm doing is I'm taking this burr and I'm putting it right against the edge, and I'm dragging it along there ever so lightly. Now what that does is that makes that burr at 30 degrees, so you get a very consistent angle over and over again. So that's ready to set up in the scraper. So when we set this one up in the scraper, we actually slide it up from the bottom and put it onto something flat. Make sure that it's sitting flat on the bench. Tighten down the screws and snug them up with an awl. And to make this work, we actually will turn this thumb screw on the back, and what that does is that actually will bow the blade, and because it's on an angle, as you bow it, it actually sticks the blade out below the bottom of the surface more and more the more that you turn it. So you really don't have to turn it a whole lot, because if you bow it too much, you're actually narrowing your cut, and you know, you really want to have as wide a cut as possible. I go to adjust this now. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn that ever so slightly, and that should give us the cutting angle that we want, and you should get a nice wide shaving that sort of floats to the floor off of that. And the nice thing about this is when it cuts the surface, if you have tear out or you have, you know, obstinate grain on the surface, because that hook is so sharp and it's held up on an angle like this, the shaving is turned extremely quickly and it prevents tear out. So that's the real beauty of this particular tool. And as you can see, it works quite nicely. Okay, so the other scraper, the card scraper, has to be sharpened in a similar manner. Now what happens when we sharpen this one is we have a square corner, And as we burnish these over, it's going to end up making hooks on each corner like this. And again, you know, if we turn it over too far, we actually have to, you know, hold the scraper over at an extreme angle in order to do the scraping. So again, having the point on the burnisher, that's going to help to give you a consistent angle over and over again. So as I burnish this now, I'm going to work on this back corner to begin with. So I'm going to just drag this across pretty much parallel to the top, and this sort of melds the scratches together. And then I'm going to slowly roll over the burr. So I'm changing the angle slightly each time. And as you can see, as I press on this, I'm pressing pretty hard. You can actually see the scraper bending slightly. And I have two nice hooks on either side of that. So now what I need to do is, if the cutting angle on this is way over like this now, you can see that, where it starts to grab. Now when I take the point of the burnisher and drag it along the side of it, what that's going to do is that's going to put that angle again right at 30 degrees, and it's going to give you a consistent cutting angle every time. So you'll notice that the cut is very vertical now. And again, I'm making really nice large shavings each time with each cut. Now, the way that these tools are used, you will generally use the cabinet scraper first to remove any tear-outs that are on the surface. And the reason for that is we have a broad base, and if I make a cut in one spot and then go back and try to make that same cut in the same spot, because I've already taken away the material, it's not going to cut. So it forces you to do a larger area so that your surface has a very slight undulation and it's not visible to the eye. If I tried to use the card scraper and focused on one little spot, what I'm going to do is dig a little hole in the surface, and you're going to end up seeing that depression in the surface when you put finish on it. So if you'd like to buy one of these, just click on the link.